Well, Philippe Clement said he would be busy right up until the deadline. And it really does appear that the transfer window, even in these last 3 to 4 days, is finally kicking into gear for Rangers. With news, obviously, yesterday that we brought to you on the channel that Jose Cifuentes was leaving to go to Rizespor in Turkey for on a loan to with obligation to buy deal. The Rune news, obviously, that Jeff Day is hopefully on his way in after being left out of the Apoel Nicosia squad. Obviously, Diamande concluded his deal on Friday. It now appears this transfer window is really kicking off in these last few days. Maybe this is because, Niels Koppen and Philippe Clement have been doing what we could only say is their due diligence, looking into these players. Certainly when the Diamande deal was done, it was taught, wasn't it, by Koppen that they'd done a lot of data analysis, watched live games, watched taped games, watched all sorts of footage on these players before making decisions as to who to sign. It really does appear that there's been a real effort at the club to make sure that the mistakes and the errors of the past transfer windows are not going to be repeated, that we will not sign players who will not go on to command big fees and we'll be able to flip in this trading model, and also players that are not injury prone, players that are not going to come and steal a wage from the club and sit in the stands, which has happened all too often. So, we said Jose Cifuentes on his way out of the club. And as I said on the video last night, obviously it's very sad. Obviously hasn't worked out for Jose Cifuentes, but it does appear that Philippe Clement has decided that he's not for him and it's time to let him move on. And we have to respect what Big Phil says. The guy clearly knows what he's doing. The guy is a top professional. And as even Hart and Hand said yesterday, it really does appear that we benefit from, in the words of them, having an actual professional in the dugout. That is a major thing, I think. When you've got someone who actually knows what they're doing with a football club, rather than that snake oil salesman we had as our previous manager. Now, there was also news yesterday that Rangers have rejected out of hand a bid by Galatasaray for left-back Ridvan Yilmaz. Now, with obviously the news that Jeff Tay is on his way to Rangers, according to Fabrizio Romano, a move that has not been denied by the club. Jeff Tay, who is currently on loan at Apoel Nicosia, was left out of Apoel's team the other day, which goes against the fact that he's pretty much been a permanent fixture in their team. It does appear that the Fluminense player is going to be on his way to Glasgow before the January transfer window closes on Wednesday. And we will be bringing you a marathon pod Wednesday night, 9 till midnight. Myself, and also I'll be joined at some point for part of the pod, not the whole thing, by Laura Hatton too. So, look, that looks like it's going to be a done deal. So, look, all the talk has been about which left back is on his way out of the club. There was rumours earlier in the window that Borna Barisic was going to be offered a new deal. There was then rumours that Borna was on his way to Roma, with many fans offering to actually drive him all the way to Rome themselves. I would even do it for free. I'm not going to even charge him petrol. I'd take him there. I'm sure he could buy me a meal or a McDonald's at least on the way out there. But the talk is very much around Ridvan Yilmaz, which does seem a real shame considering how well Ridvan has played in recent weeks. Culminating in that outstanding finish against Hibernian the other night, where he takes the ball down from that beautiful lob pass from John Lundstrom on his instep, and then with the next swipe of his left boot, slams it beyond Marshall into the back of the Hibernian net to open the scoring, being his second goal after the outstanding goal he scored earlier. I think it was against Livy in the Cup. So, he is really finally getting a run in the team, really finally showing us what a quality asset he was. I mean, he was signed from Besiktas with the whole aim of being our future left back, with being the man who, is really part of, I think, a trading model. Now, according to reports that are circulating yesterday, Galatasaray bid some 3.4 million for Ridvan, but it was a loan to buy deal. Rangers rejected this deal, which I think is absolutely spot on. Now, according to what research I've done, now the fee for Ridvan was thought to be somewhere around about £4 million, or 4 to 4.5 million pounds. However, at the moment, we've only paid out around £3.42 million for Ridvan. That 4 to 4.5 is very much dependent on certain incentives being met by Ridvan in terms of appearances, Rangers having certain successes, etc., etc. Those have not yet been met. So a bit of a 3.4, with that being not coming until the summer, would be below what we paid for him. So it would represent, in my opinion, very bad business by the club now, especially obviously if we are very serious about setting up this trading model, which does seem to be the case under our new director of football recruitment, Niels Koppen. Ridvan, like I said, has really come into his own over recent weeks and played exceptionally well. And I think, the vast majority of the fan base have been very impressed with the way that Ridvan has played, with the talent that he's shown, with the way that he has really, raided down the left-hand side, not only going forward, been very able, but also defending as well. Ridvan, for me, has proved himself to be much more impressive and a greater talent, certainly, than Borna Barisic. Nothing against Borna in particular. Borna during 55 was a great servant for the club and has done well, but during the last couple of seasons has really started to show his age, slowing down, not been obviously as good defensively, going missing at Parkhead on a number of occasions. To me, he's been the only player really who has not made any steps forward under the new manager. Some of even those players that we wrote off as duds have really come forward and stepped forward under Philippe Clermont and made huge steps forward in their ability. No more so obviously than Cyril Dessers. But look, Ridvan is the best saleable asset. Now it appears that the ball has been very much firmly smacked back into Galatasaray's court, so to speak, and that if they want to get Ridvan, they're going to have to come back in with a substantially higher bid. Rangers are very much of the opinion that he is worth much more than that £3.4 million that was initially bid for him. And it does appear that Rangers are not interested in a loan to buy with Ridvan. It is at money up front, which kind of does say that money then would be then reinvested in the squad. But look, for me, Ridvan, I would rather keep Ridvan at least until the end of the season. I think with the way he plays, with how he's performing, I think we could get an awful lot more money for him in the summer. I think you'd be looking well in excess of £8 to £9 million for him, even £10 million for him. You could even get some of the EPL clubs interested. And once you get EPL clubs interested, you're then obviously opening a banker's checkbook because they have got so much money. So for me, look, I would hang on to him to the end of the season. If there's any way of getting Borna out, that for me would be the best policy. I know Borna's unlikely to want to leave because he's going to want to obviously go for free in the summer when he can command and get all the money for himself rather than obviously the club getting the money. There is ways, of course, of forcing a player to leave. For example, I know that Borna will be wanting to get into the Croatia squad for the Euro 2024 Championships. If the club were to come and say, well, actually, do you know what, Borna, you take this move to Roma in this transfer window, or guess what? You don't play again for us. So you can sit and go and train with the reserves. Well, then he's obviously going to lose his Croatian national team spot, which then obviously will test how much it actually means to him to play for his country. I know that sounds rough. I know that sounds harsh. But at the end of the day, you've got to put the club first. And if we can get £1 million, £1.5 million out of Roma for Borna Barisic, keep Ridvan to the end of the season, sell him for 8, 9, 10 million in the summer, that for me would represent much better business. Look, it is cold, it is hard, but that is what we've got to do. We've got to put the needs of Rangers first and not the needs of the players first. That is what it is down to at the end of the day. It is a cold, hard world out there, boys and girls. Well, let's talk a little bit of Super Jack Butland. Yet again, on Saturday against St Mirren, he was absolutely outstanding. Now, according to a few reports that are going around at this moment in time, Nottingham Forest have inquired about the availability of Jack Butland. Well, that is the report anyway. Something I find utterly laughable, considering that Nottingham Forest are currently in hock to the Premier League. Now, Forest have recently admitted breaching FFP rules and Premier League spending rules, which has put them in the same sort of court as Everton, who recently got a 10-point deduction for overspending, not by the £9 million that they first said, but by some £250 million. It's thought that Forest, with now ex-Rangers sporting director Ross Wilson at the helm, have overspent by somewhere by over £100 million and are well overspent. Now, how they could even sort of contemplate making a bid for Jack Butland is absolutely beyond me, especially as the fact that it could come that Forest have actually deducted points which would put them firmly in the relegation zone and one of the relegation favourites, considering they're already down there anyway. Why would Jack Butland want to go to a club that possibly could be playing Championship? Well, more than likely will be playing Championship football next season. I think this is highly unrealistic. I think this is highly ridiculous. The club will not, hopefully, entertain any offers for Jack Butland under 20, 25 million pounds. As I've said on multiple videos, Andrea Nana, the Manchester United goalkeeper, was 47 million pounds. The guy has been, unceremoniously dropped from his national team at the AFCON from Cameroon. He's not even on. He's been relegated to the bench for the fact that he's playing so awfully badly. And Manchester United paid 47 million pounds for this guy, who is Sam Lammers-esque goalkeeper. He really is someone who has failed galactically for Manchester United this season. So if he's worth 47 million, where does that put the value of Jack Butland? Now, I know that obviously moving from Inter Milan in Serie A is very different from moving from the SPL. But, you still, if you even work on the basis that Scotland's players don't have the same transfer values as perhaps players coming from La Liga or Serie A or EPL, for me, you're still looking at 25 to 30 million for Jack Butland. This lad, not kid, he's 30 years old now, but is an outstanding goalkeeper and has repeatedly proved this season how important he is. So I find this report utterly ridiculous and utterly laughable, and it is a little bit of, press naughtiness, maybe a little bit of lazy journalism, a little bit of clickbait journalism from certain sources down south. So I do sort of kind of just laugh at this one a little bit. There's no way the club should even consider selling Jack Butland at this stage. I think if in the summer a 25 to 30 million pound bid did come in, you'd have to seriously consider it, unfortunately, because that money could be reinvested into the players. You could probably bring in 2-3 players for some really big money, and it would really substantially strengthen the squad. And after all, Robbie McCrory would not be a bad backup. Well, look, that's where we're at with transfers at the moment. It is kind of quiet. I mean, Football Insider had an awful story about Lawrence Shankland earlier, that Rangers were still interested in Shankland and that they could go back in the summer for him if they don't get him in this window. But it was very clickbaity. It was very much a kind of, I don't know, I've still got huge doubts over Lawrence Shankland about whether there is actually any genuine Rangers interest in Lawrence Shankland. I think a lot of it is fan-driven, a lot is fan media-driven. A lot of it is media-driven. I'm yet to sort of read anything that kind of confirms to me that the club are actually genuinely interested in buying Lawrence Shankland. If I've got to kind of think about this and really evaluate what I've read and evaluate the evidence and evaluate what Philippe Clement has said and evaluate Niels Koppen's previous record, I would say that the likelihood of us getting a striker before the end of the window is very high. I think it's probably going to be someone we haven't heard of or someone from a different league. I don't think it's going to be Lawrence Shankland if I'm actually genuinely put on the spot and asked to predict what will happen. I do think it might be, and I'm not saying it will be this guy, but an Alexander Lind type player, someone of that ilk, certainly not, or Denke, not Denke, because that guy's worth 10, 12 million pound money we don't have. But that sort of type of player, I don't think it will be Lawrence Shankland. Look, as much as that might upset Rangers fans, as much as you might really want Lawrence Shankland, I just genuinely cannot see it happening at this stage. Maybe in the summer, maybe in the future, I don't know. But genuinely this window, I don't see Lawrence Shankland leaving Hearts. So, look, that's pretty much where we're up to with the latest transfer news, views and rumours. Rangers have no more games now until Saturday, which is unusual for the club at the moment. We seem to have gone through that period before the winter break and since the winter break of having the Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, or the Saturday, Thursday, Sunday games. You look at the next few games that are upcoming for the club. We face Livingston on Saturday the 3rd. That is our next game at home at Ibrox, back at Ibrox after 3 games on the road. At Dumbarton, at Easter Road and at St Mirren. Livingston are pretty awful at the moment. They were beaten again today. That is a game that we should obviously be running up a fair few goals in and helping to hopefully close that goal difference to them at the top. Unfortunately, they did win today, 1-0 over Ross County with a very dodgy goal as well. That probably should have been ruled out for offside, And again, they get another penalty. Yes, because it's only us that gets penalties, isn't it? Not them, of course. Even though they've had more than us in the league. A penalty that was actually taken twice. They missed the first one and were given another opportunity because VAR said, yes, because VAR only works for us, doesn't it? I mean, the paranoia over there on the other side of the city is utterly ridiculous. On the same day, on Saturday, the 3rd of February, Aberdeen take on Celtic. Again, I'm fully expecting Aberdeen to lie down and die, and basically roll over and let them have their stomachs tickled by Celtic. On the 6th of February, the Tuesday, we're back to 3 games a week after this week. Rangers take on Aberdeen at home at Ibrox, looking to get that revenge for that 3-1 defeat we suffered that signaled the end of the Michael Beale era. No doubt Aberdeen will be bang up for that game and playing like prime Real Madrid, prime Barcelona for that game. I have no doubt in my mind that that will be the case, as they only ever seem to be up for games against us. On Saturday the 10th, we take on Ayr United in the Cup. It is live on TV, 12:30 kickoff, before a game on the 14th against Ross County, again at Ibrox, before our second game in hand against St Johnstone on the 18th at 7 a.m. So a couple of games there running right up to and including some sort of, like I said, a lot of Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday games there. Games that are all eminently winnable, games that we need to make sure we come out and win. That is what is upcoming for Rangers over the next few weeks. Well, guys, look, that's where we're up to. That's where we're at with transfers. That's what's coming up with fixtures. Obviously, all those games will be available here, live streamed on the channel. So please come and join us for those live streams. It's great to have as many of you as possible as we chase that 5K sub mark. Thank you again for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation Sunday Supplement. Please hit that sub and ring that notification bell. And on the way out, 2 things I always ask of you. Number 1, smash the like. And number 2, please always remember, we are the people.